Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here this morning. My name is Christine Luna Munger. Yes, please be seated. I serve as the director of the Episcopal House of Prayer in Collegeville near St. Cloud, and here to join in your community and welcoming some of the community members to a new program that we're starting at the House of Prayer. So I have the privilege of having Lindsay invite me to preach this morning, so we'll do a little bit of getting to know me and a little bit of reflecting on our word today. I want to start by saying that both of our readings today offer messages of deep reassurance. Phrases like, "Do not fear," "You are precious in my sight," "The people were filled with expectation." These are messages and words of assurance. I recall the first time in my own life experience when I was deeply assured, not only that God was really real, but also that God really loved me. As a teenager, I went on a tech retreat in southern Minnesota, and I experienced God's deep love through an interpersonal encounter with a priest in confession, of all places, as well as in the loving community that gathered in that weekend retreat. I sensed palpably the love of God like a light. And my sense was that it came through from above me and shined out of my face and my heart for all to see. That transformative experience inspired me to study theology, get trained as a spiritual director. And during my studies and journeying, I recall how disappointed I was when I realized how amazing the spiritual treasures of the Christian tradition were, and yet so few folks knew about them, much less had access to them. My heart broke for the people in the pews. And when our hearts break, we can pay attention because transformation is often on the horizon when our hearts break. So now, about 30 years after that formative adolescent retreat experience, I'm standing here today serving as the director of a house of prayer, a retreat house, extending this invitation to members of your community to participate in a grant program called Transforming Hearts. And again, from our gospel today, we hear that phrase, "The people were filled with expectation, and all were questioning in their hearts concerning John, whether he might be the Messiah." I was walking around the sacred space this morning and noticed that the baptism of the Lord is over on this wall over here in our glass windows. And it makes me think about the baptism of Jesus. Both of our readings today, in addition to reassuring us, they speak about fire. John foretells that Jesus will baptize not with water, but with fire. It's a little bit of a paradox there, right? Always listen when we hear paradoxes. How are we going to baptize with fire and not water? And I do confess that I'm a little bit hesitant to speak of fire specifically in these days, given that the West Coast is literally consumed in fire, and lives are both being lost and upended, even as we gather this morning. And yet in that way of paradox and mystery, Isaiah assures us that the people will pass through fire but not be burned. The flame shall not consume. It is true that sometimes the transformative power of fire is chaotic and totally consuming, like when all of life changes in the blink of an instant. Perhaps you've had some of these moments in your own lives. At other times, the transformative power of fire is more like the comforting warmth of embers in a fire pit, like a campfire. Like that radiant light of illumination that I knew when I was on retreat as a teenager, that slowly but surely lured me toward years of study and ministry. Perhaps you've also known transformative moments of fire in the ember kind of way. So again, in reference to the baptism, the heavens opened and the Spirit descended upon Jesus palpably in the form of a dove, anointing him as the Son of God. The deep assurance that I knew while on retreat as a teen, just like the readings remind us today, is that all of us, like Jesus, are really actually anointed as well, as beloved of God. Imagine that. Really, actually, I invite you to open your mind and your heart for a moment in order to imagine that. I invite us all to take a deep collective breath. If you want to close your eyes, you're welcome to do that. And use the gift of your imagination to look inward in your mind and your heart toward the past. Allow your memory to recall the fiery moments of transformation in your own life, whether in the fanning of flames or the warming of embers. Big moments, small moments. This procession of moments leading up to today. And so I invite us to take another deep breath. And allow your imagination to turn to the current moment, this week, this day, this month. How is the Spirit anointing you in your daily life in these days? And once again, for a third time, I invite us to take a deep collective breath and shift our attention toward the future. How might the Spirit of God lure you toward transformation into the future? Thank you for taking that pause, dropping our head into our hearts a little bit and mixing things up in our imagination. Speaking of the future, next month, 4 members of St. Mary's will come away to the Episcopal House of Prayer in Collegeville, which is near St. Cloud in central Minnesota, to begin a commitment to a grant program called Transforming Hearts, an ancient curriculum for modern congregations. And those 4 who have said yes to this commitment will participate in a 3-year spiritual formation experience hosted by the House of Prayer and funded along with nearly 240 other thriving congregations programs across the country by the Lilly Endowment Religion Division. The House of Prayer, in case you're not familiar with it or haven't had a chance to visit, has been around for nearly 40 years. It was the dream of former ECMN Bishop Bob Anderson. Some of you may have known him or worked when he was around. And then Benedictine abbot of the monastery, Jerome Tyson. And that dream was to have a place apart for the purpose of spiritual renewal and transformation. So over the decades, the rhythms of retreat and commitment to the contemplative spiritual life have provided space for things I think all of us benefit from: slowing down, pausing for deep reflection, and transforming our daily lives. So, in the third year of their experience, the members of your community will discern how to best integrate the learnings from their formative cohort experience into the context of life here at St. Mary's. So keep posted. We'll do a little commercial for keeping your heads up for that. And in the meantime, I ask you, the congregation here, to support the members of your congregational cell, not only by checking in with them and what are you doing and what are you up to, but by holding them in your minds and your hearts. Once again, from our readings today, as a people, let us await the ongoing work of the Spirit, filled with expectation. Thank you, thank you.